So have you ever felt like you were trying really hard to communicate with someone in your relationship and it wasn't getting through, or you felt, a really big emotional pull to do something that is kind of emotionally destructive in your relationship? Well, today I want to talk about what secure attachment looks like and how you can move towards secure attachment if you have a different attachment style. And it's not just about communication. We hear a lot about communication, and it's great, but it only can be implemented once you address some other issues. So I want to go deep onto this topic so that you can get some clarity as to why you're experiencing some of the struggles and frustrations in your relationships. If you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson, and I'm a certified master hypnotist and a life recovery coach specializing in relationship dynamics and connection. So what I do for my clients is I help them go back on a subconscious level to reframe the limiting beliefs that are causing the behaviors or feelings that are unwanted on a subconscious level so they can function differently in life and make the connections and create the life and love that they want. So if you'd like to learn more about that, or if you'd like to set up a totally free complimentary consultation, check out the link in the description below. You can find all the information there. Before I totally dive in, I also want to remind you to please click like and subscribe so you can be notified every time I post a new video. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about attachment styles and really why they're a big player in getting to the heart of why relationships in our lives tend to be a little dysfunctional, or can be sometimes. So about 50% of the population has a secure attachment style, which is really great. And that actually lines up with the divorce rate. We're seeing about a 50% divorce rate and about a 50% secure attachment style. So that means half the population has been nurtured in a way growing up that allows them to be interdependent. So you've got extreme independence, where one person thinks that each person is 100% responsible for meeting, fulfilling all of their own needs. And then you've got sort of this codependence on the other end of the spectrum, thinking that all of their needs and value and worth should be coming from the other person. And then you take away those extremes and you have interdependence. And interdependence is really when we know that we can and should meet our own needs, be dialed into our own needs, be open and curious about multiple ways to meet our own needs, and we also know we can lean on our partner, and we do lean on our partner. We expect them to be there for us, and we are there for them. So interdependence is moving in life in a similar direction while you are taking responsibility fully for yourself and the other person, and the other person is taking responsibility for themselves fully and fully for you, which means you are prioritizing each other's needs and your own in this very balanced, harmonious way. And so secure attachment really moves toward the other person. The biggest indicator of a secure attachment is when they can move towards someone else in a vulnerable way, being curious, wanting to be connected, and learn what's going on inside the other person's experience. So that is sort of a very small, quick snapshot of what secure attachment is, but ultimately it is actively moving toward connection. Okay, so other than secure attachment, there are some other kinds of attachment. There's anxious attachment, where someone's really, really needy, and that sort of goes toward the codependent side a little bit. There is avoidant attachment, which is really detached, not only avoiding of their feelings, but they don't really have access to them easily because of the way they were taught to deal with their feelings and emotions growing up. And then you've got disorganized attachment, which fluctuates a lot between the two of them, and I don't want to dive into all the aspects of all the attachment styles in this video, and I will probably do that in some future videos, but I just want to point out what those other styles can be like, and there's variations inside of each one of those styles as well. I mean, we're human, we're complex, we don't fit in a box, but basically these are driven by the way that we were really programmed as children. So we are in hypnosis from birth to age 7, and we're very, very suggestible, and we're using that time to assign meaning to the experiences we have, and then we're using that meaning to write a blueprint in our subconscious mind, which becomes our core belief system. So our subconscious mind is driving over 95% of everything we think, feel, and do. And when we realize that, then what seems normal and natural in our behavior and our responses might not be healthy. But it feels normal to us because we've been doing it forever. So the key to really moving toward secure attachment starts inside yourself. And the truth is that babies learn how to love by being loved. And adults heal the wounds of what they didn't receive also by receiving love in a safe environment and having the willingness to receive that love. So if we backtrack enough to the fact that some people don't even have the willingness to receive, then we go back to the fact that we need to do the work inside of ourselves. And so creating self-worth and self-acceptance allows us to love other people with way more capacity. Because when we do that, we're letting go of control of other people and trying to manipulate them, and we're really just operating from a place of love and acceptance for ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't ever get hurt, that people don't do things that we feel deeply. But what it does mean is that we function in a way that's grounded and honoring to ourselves. So what's really the issue is not the communication so much as the internal trigger that's driving our behavior, the trigger that's keeping us shut down or unable to reach our emotions, or the triggers that are creating explosiveness and reactivity, or creating a belief system that because this person said or did something, that means I'm unworthy. And so these internal triggers create a narrative inside of us that keeps us from being able to move toward our partner and create that secure attachment, because the assumptions are kind of automatic and they're underneath the surface. And so it creates the lens we see the world through. We see the world through our own life experiences. So let's say there was some kid in another country that was just, living in misery, and there was war and landmines everywhere, and you just took him out of that situation and you just took him to another country where it was a peaceful, safe little village and everything was beautiful, and you just said, hey, go have a great life. That kid's not going to accept that as reality, even though this is now his new reality. His life experience tells him that that's not reality. And so our life experience can work against us seeing reality for what it really is, because it's just kind of on a replay loop in our subconscious mind, if that makes sense. So you can probably see how your own life experiences have created a lens that you see reality through, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a reflection of actual reality. And it helps you actually try to protect yourself. Keep yourself safe from perceived danger. But the danger of connecting with another person authentically and deeply really isn't the danger we think it is. And so it ends up keeping us from what we really want, because healing is what happens when we are in that safe, secure attachment. And when we are able to see ourselves through the perspective of someone else and address those inner things, that's really where the healing work happens. You can say, I'm going to go away and be in a cave in the Himalayas for a month, and I'm just going to meditate, and I'm going to just, find myself. And then you come back into the real world and you start engaging in your relationships again. And you find very quickly there's triggers underneath there still. Things that you take offense to, things that are fearful to you. And so the real work happens in a relationship. And so it's important that you have someone in your relationship that you're in that with that is willing to grow with you, is willing to hold space for you, that you can be willing to hold space for them as well, and that you both have a growth mentality to move toward your goals. Because reaching secure attachment does take some effort and some introspection, but mostly what it takes is rewiring those internal triggers. Then, once those are rewired, you can actually communicate because you're no longer being as reactive. So, rewiring those internal triggers can be really difficult because they exist in our subconscious mind. So, hypnotherapy is a really amazing way to shift your attachment style, to address those inner wounds and those triggers, because the programming and the reframing of it is happening on a subconscious level. And we don't usually have access to our subconscious mind. The things that have access to it are sort of traumatic things, big traumatic events, or ongoing, chronic, critical, negative behavior that just kind of keeps coming at us with so much repetition that it breaks through this little guard that we have over our subconscious mind and affects the way we see ourselves and the world around us, usually in a more negative or cynical way. But in hypnosis, we actually get to have access to that subconscious mind. We get to reframe those beliefs, and we get to actually start cultivating self-acceptance from a whole different place, a whole new perspective. And so it's incredibly effective. It's incredibly rapid. And it doesn't mean you don't have more healing work to do or more of a journey or more things to explore about yourself, but it gives you this incredible amount of momentum. And so I love watching that because people are no longer struggling inch by inch to try to figure this out, and they're getting these big breakthroughs and a lot of momentum and cultivating really the self-acceptance that they need inside themselves in order to be available and secure for someone else. So if you'd like to take some steps today on your own, a few things you can do is you can remind yourself that you are allowed to be human. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You learn from your mistakes. Everyone's human. We're imperfectly perfect. And stop holding yourself to some perfectionistic standard. The next thing you can do is you can start focusing on things that you appreciate. Get that spotlight off of the fear, off of the things that are scary to you, and start focusing on the things that you do feel good about, that you do appreciate, that are going well in your life, that are going well in your relationship. And the third thing is you can change the narrative. So if you've got these beliefs that are like all men are this way, all women are that way, hurt's inevitable, eventually they all do this, like those beliefs that start to spill out of your mouth are really a reflection of what's in that subconscious programming. And so you can stop them and tell yourself the truth, which is really important, because if we can't see the truth at all within ourselves, even in our conscious mind, then there's no way we're going to get it into our subconscious mind. So we need to stop when we say those things and remind ourselves that's not true. People are complex, and I have no right to judge every single person by my limited life experience. So you want to remind yourself that you really don't have the right or the ability to read someone else's mind. And you certainly don't have the right to lump them all into one category. Do you like it when someone lumps you into one category and says to you, well, of course you do that. All men do that. Of course, all women are that way. That doesn't feel good on any level, even if it was about your occupation. All nurses are this way. All, doctors are crazy. Whatever these assumptions are, they really put you in a box. And no one likes that feeling of being in a box. And it's not fair for us to do that to other people because we don't want them to do that to us. So we need to catch our thoughts and we need to create a new narrative, even if we don't go the opposite way into, no, all of these people are amazing. That's not fair either. We want to say, we're all allowed to be human. We're learning, we're growing. There's lots of people out there who will understand me, who I can connect with, who I can be vulnerable with. And the funny thing about self-acceptance and vulnerability, why they go hand in hand, is because once you accept you really don't care what other people think of you. And it's not in a mean way. It's not in like, I don't care what she thinks, or it's not this sassy little attitude that thinks you're better than anyone else. It's more like, it's okay. They can think of me whatever they want. I like me. I'm good with me. I feel good about myself. And you're no longer picking apart and just focusing on your imperfections. You're going, yeah, I've got imperfections. Everybody does. It's okay. I like me. And when you have that level of self-acceptance and you're no longer having this negative narrative loop going on in your head, now your nervous system can relax, you can be present in the moment, and you're a much safer space for everyone around you. And I have personally found that in my life with the people closest to me. The more I have cultivated my self-worth and my self-acceptance from a place of calm, peace, and not arrogance, the safer of a person I've become. For my adult children, for my family, for my friends, for everyone in my life, because I'm not trying to control them anymore, and I'm not condemning them or myself. So most people try to start with, I'm not going to condemn other people, but the reality is you start with not condemning yourself and not beating yourself up and cultivating that self-acceptance, which of course is much easier to do when you have access to the subconscious mind, so you can address those things, because most of those belief systems we're fighting against, they have been put in there just so long ago, when we didn't get our needs met, when we felt like we had to handle everything on our own, when we were forced to be more grown up than we should have been, when we couldn't rely on our parents to help us navigate our emotions. All these things are old. And so while we might think that the pain is coming from the person in front of us, it's actually just triggering a really old wound. So again, if you'd like to learn more, set up that consultation call. At the very least, you'll get a lot more clarity about what's going on inside of you, and I'll be able to make my best recommendations for what I think would be the best fit for you, especially if we work together. So again, just a short recap of the steps you can take starting today. You can remind yourself you're allowed to be human. You can focus on things you appreciate, getting the spotlight off the negative and onto the things that are going well. And you can change the narrative that you have that lumps people into sort of a all or nothing category or group. So you already have everything inside of you that you need. But if you need help accessing it and reframing that, then don't hesitate to reach out. And until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.